and I'm very, very excited to have him with us. And I'm talking about Rajprasath Subramanian, who is the Innovation Architect Leader at SAP in India. So Rajprasath is an Innovation and Enterprise SAP Architect. He's an SAP Certified Digital Architect with SAP Labs in India, working with premium engagement customers and partners. He has over 12 years of experience across multiple industry verticals like manufacturing, utilities, telecom. His primary role is to make enterprises intelligent with technology innovations such as machine learning, Internet of Things, robotics process of automation, and many other intelligent automation applications. Rajprasath, it's a real pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. It's later time right now in India, and here you are with us, and we appreciate that.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you. Thanks a lot, and it's been a privilege here. So yes, so let me share my screen. Yep. So just a confirmation, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, looks good.
Fantastic, fantastic. So hello guys, thank you, and first of all, welcome for this conference. And for next 35 minutes, we are going to see how we are going to create a native integration, enterprise architecture integration strategies, especially with modern day multi-cloud environments. So I have been working in an enterprise architecture for past 3 to 4 years, and I have gone through and I have worked with lots of customers, and there are different use cases which I have worked with, specifically on-prem as well as on cloud. But then coming now, if you see, most of the customers are in multi-cloud environment, using multi-cloud environment, which is they are dealing with more than one cloud. So basically, like, they are part of a public cloud environment, and ideally, like, if you mean public cloud, they are having their workloads running in different hyperscalers like AWS, Azure, GCP, etc. And we as an enterprise architect, it is very critical for us on how we are coming up with an integration strategy for these customers. So that is what we are going to see in next 35 minutes. So you all know each and every industry is going through a rapid digital transformation currently. So for example, if you go to an automotive industry, earlier you will go to dealership, look for a car, pre-book it, and then the car will be delivered. But now if you take Tesla, you do have an option to configure your car, even your car seats. Like either you can choose and opt for bacteria-free seat or a leather seat, etc. So now if you see, this is a kind of a merchandising concept, right? So you can clearly see basically the customers now, automotive customers now, they are trying to leverage the merchandising concept here. Okay, so which is part of retail industry. So now you can see that each and every customers or each and every industries are leveraging different process from different industries due to digital transformation. As far as you know, because of this new age business models, all these cloud services, new business processes are hosted in cloud, and these are all provided by different providers, right? So maybe like if you see like AWS is working on industry cloud, Google is working on industry cloud, similar to what SAP and Salesforce does. And now as a customer, we do have an option to pick and choose the selected business services from different providers. Now, as an enterprise architect, it is our responsibility to help customers on crafting their intelligent enterprise architecture. So this involves how we are going to integrate these different business processes, how we are going to manage the security, because you have to toggle from one cloud application to another application, which may run on different hyperscaler. So security is a very critical factor here, how we are going to manage that. And also, we have to be a trusted advisor for C-suite executives on their digital transformation journey. So we have to guide them on how we are planning to transfer their workloads from on-premise to cloud, and what is the business model goes to look like, and how the integration works, how the extension works, as well as how the innovation works. Because if you see, when you move on to cloud, your workloads are getting modernized, as well as the data, with help of the data that you are having on your environment, you do have an option to go for innovation with help of machine learning, IoT, etc., to move from preventive recommendations to predictive maintenance or a proactive recommendations. So this is where industry is going on now, and it is the responsibility of enterprise architects to craft the best architecture for customers on this journey. And obviously, you see, like with the increase on these cloud technologies and all, the challenges are also increasing for enterprise architects. Challenges in the sense, customers would like to use low-code, no-code tools, and they want to use different infrastructures, and they do want to communicate with different cloud providers for different services. We, as an architects, have to be very clear with the strategies, with the patterns. When I mean patterns and strategies, be it security or integration or extensions, we have to be very clear on how we are going to approach this multi-cloud journey. So this is what we are going to see now. And here you could see, right, like hybrid multi-cloud customer landscape is a new reality now. So 84% of enterprises are having multi-cloud strategy. So I am currently working with multiple customers across global regions from APJ, EMEA, and North America. I do see the 90% of customer engagements. I do see the customer enterprises are hosted in different landscapes, and then customer tries to consume these services from different landscapes, different cloud providers. But then the challenge is, all these landscapes, all these services are working in a silos. Customers expect a unified view of all this process, all this data in a landscape, such that they can get an informed decision on that. Now, as an enterprise architect, our role is very critical. We need to first understand the process on what is being called from different cloud providers and how we can unify all those to give a 360-degree view to our customers, be it on a manufacturing or supply chain or insurance or financial services. 360-degree view of how your business is performing is very critical now. And now here you could see 31% of the enterprises see public cloud as their top priority. So earlier, even customers were working on to deploy their enterprise workloads in the private cloud or in enterprise landscape. But then now customers are slowly moving towards public cloud, and we all know public cloud is here to stay. And here you could clearly see hybrid cloud is also there, 28%, whereas public cloud is 31%. So based on my experience, I would say like how it works is, most of the customers, right, say for example, if you take automotive industry is 150-year-old industry, right? So they have their own software, they have their own data model, and everything is hosted on-prem. And now you cannot move entirely all these workloads to cloud, right? Because like all their master data, all their mission critical workloads, and all their system of record is still in on-prem. So we need to find a way on how we can replicate this master data to cloud environment to proceed with the transaction process and the real-time process, which I mean like IoT data, machine learning, etc. So for example, maybe like I will give you one of the example recently for which I have worked on. This customer is from automotive space, and they are doing preventive maintenance of the vehicle based on conditional monitoring, based on odometer readings, etc. And the system of records are maintained in the on-prem system. Now, with help of cloud solutions, they want to move from preventive to predictive maintenance. They want to get a proactive recommendations rather than reactive recommendations. Now, what we try to do is, we have implemented an integration strategy which fetches customers' master data to cloud. Basically, we are replicating the master data to cloud, and all the real-time operational data that we are getting from IoT, in the sense like in this vehicle, we are fitting sensors and we are getting the real-time data out of those sensors. So those real-time data, those operational data is coming directly to cloud, whereas customers' master data in on-prem. So we are trying to enrich the operational data with the master data, such that for this master data, we do have a real-time view of all the sensor information, and with help of machine learning, we are predicting the proactive failures. And since this customer is using on-prem as a system of record, once a failure is identified, we are automatically creating a notification. That notification flows back to the on-prem system as single system of record. Now you see, integration pattern is very critical, along with intelligence scenarios. For intelligence scenarios, you can use operational data, but then the IT data for you to pull it from on-prem is very critical here. So that is customers' landscapes are currently working. And now, when I mean about integrated experiences, right? If you see, most of our customers are looking to adopt intelligent enterprise. So what do you mean by intelligent enterprise here? So we are trying to make customers' enterprise applications intelligent with help of machine learning, robotic process automation, conversational AI, etc. But then the true intelligent enterprise lies in the fact how these applications, different applications, are integrated together to achieve a common business goal. That is very critical. So basically, like the workloads running in AWS or Google or Microsoft, it has to be integrated. It needs to be integrated to achieve a particular business process. So you need to find a way to integrate it. And what are all the integration styles that are available? You can do either a process integration, end-to-end process integration, and there is a way to do end-to-end integration, data integration, and we do have analytics integration as well as UI integration. So from our perspective, we are keeping this integration pattern, enterprise architecture integration patterns, into 4 different types: process, data, analytics, and UI. So let's go drill deeper to that, right? What do I mean by process to process integration? So this is a kind of a application to application integration. For example, I will tell you, say for example, like once the truck enters your warehouse, then automatically the goods receipt has to be created and goods receipt has to be posted, and also the replenishment of the stocks has to be done. This involves touch-based different applications, different systems altogether. And these applications may be hosted in different cloud, public cloud. But then with help of the process integration style, we are going to automate this business process such that the application to application integration goes to happen seamlessly. This is what we call it as a process integration. And now in my day-to-day job, I am working with our customers on 4 different business processes. One is design to operate, which is the digital supply chain process. So basically, say for example, for this automotive industry itself, right? Consider like a company manufactures a car. For them, the design to operate process will look like creating a design of their new car and then getting it approved, and then purchasing the different spare parts relevant for the manufacturing of the car, and then the car goes to production. And even after we sell the car to customer, we are tracking the car usage. So we are doing aftermarket service also here. So this is what end-to-end design to operate process will look like. And of course, this process touches different applications altogether. Similarly, the same automotive industry, they do have lead to cash process also. So what do I mean by lead to cash process? Once a car is manufactured, you need to find a way to market about the car. It might be a simple advertisement or a digital marketing or a social media campaign or a smart campaign, whatever it is. So you have to start marketing the product. You have to identify the potential lead. Before that, you will generate demands. You will identify that lead, and lead you are trying to convert as an opportunity. And then a salesperson will reach out to a potential lead to sell the car. And then once the car is sold, we have to maintain all the invoice, etc. So this is lead to cash options. Now this automotive industry will be having this lead to cash process also. Now the third process which we are trying to leverage is source to pay. Obviously, when you try to manufacture a car, it needs several spare parts, right? And you are not going to manufacture all the spare parts. You will be having different suppliers from whom you will be procuring those spare parts, and then there will be invoicing process associated with it, supplier contract, supplier inquiry, everything will be part of it. And that is source to pay. And now recruit to retire is also a process, right? For this automotive industry, there will be a lot of employees working in the industry. There may be a lot of contract workers. So you have to maintain their salary pay, you have to maintain their feedbacks, etc. So that is recruit to retire. So if you touch base each and every industry, almost all the process will belong to each and every industry. And you have to be very sure these processes are integrated, correlated, and work seamlessly to achieve a 360-degree view, to achieve a digital transformation. So for this, the process integration will be very critical. So it may be A2A integration, which is application to application integration, or it may be a master data integration. Say, for example, let's take a scenario, right? In lead to cash use case, you might be having a customer details in your on-prem system as a system of record, but then you are doing a social media campaign and the customer is interested and customer is trying to provide their user information for getting the subsequent call about this particular marketing campaign. Now this data is getting stored in cloud, but then ideally your system of record is in on-prem. So you need to find a way to replicate the data from master data from cloud to on-prem. Now earlier, what we try to do is we were trying to do point-to-point integration, system-to-system integration to achieve this. But then with help of modernization, with help of moving from monoliths to microservices, we are trying to move from point-to-point integration to event-based integration. So what do I mean by event-based integration? It is a pub/sub kind of a mechanism where a data producer publishes the data, and as a subscriber, you can subscribe the data. That is what we are telling about master data integration. And then there are different cases like B2B, which is like business partners integration, whereas like businesses to government integration also. So these are all part of process integration. Whereas when it comes to data integration, as you all know, we need to be very clear on what is the data strategy for our integration. Whenever you talk with customer, especially with the invent of IoTs and all, we need to have a clear integration strategy on data integration. That starts from data access, data volume, data management, orchestration, visualization, etc. So I have worked with a few customers where they want to get the data from different sources, be it SAP and non-SAP sources. They want me to orchestrate the data and push it to the data warehouse so that like they can do further analytics and machine learning on top of it. So this data warehouse can be any public cloud provider, right? Be it if it is Amazon, it is a Redshift, whereas if it is Azure, we do have Synapse Analytics. But then as an enterprise architect, we have to be very sure how we are going to orchestrate this data integration process. Are we going to do the data management here? So how are we planning to store the data in terms of hot store, cold store, warm store? So these are all the critical patterns that we have to be very clear on while starting with this enterprise integrations. And the third part, what I would like to discuss with you is analytics integration. So if you closely see most of the multi-cloud applications currently, for example, like even if SAP applications deployed on multi-cloud, or else even if a Salesforce application deployed on multi-cloud, customers expecting these cloud applications to provide embedded analytics. So what does it mean? These applications comes up with an inbuilt analytics. So how these inbuilt analytics are getting generated? Based on the REST APIs or OData APIs that is available in the backend database. So you have to be very clear when you speak with customer, what are all the embedded analytics that the application is having, and what are all the new analytics or cross-app analytics that the customer is trying to create. For example, when I mention about different process, right, lead to cache, design to operate, etc. Now this each and every process altogether will be having a single unified analytics as an embedded analytics. But then customer may be having a unique requirement that they want to get the data out of lead to cache process as well as design to operate process to come up with a cross app analytics, right? So that is also something which we need to have an integration pattern defined for it. How we are going to leverage embedded analytics, how we are going to leverage cross app analytics. That is very critical in our enterprise architecture integration, especially in the modern cloud environment. And of course, when you deal with all these integrations, obviously the security is a critical factor as well as the governance, enterprise architecture governance. Those two are very, very critical. We have to understand the architect principles and do accordingly. And when it comes to user integration, we worked with lots and lots of customers where their reliability engineers are using mobile to make any nodes of a particular process. So here mobile integration is also very critical, as well as most of our customers wants to have a chatbot embedded in a website or embedded in a messenger or embedded in a mobile also. So basically these customers treat chatbot as a next-gen UI, next-gen user interface. So gone are the days that our management has to sit in front of a web application, drill down to different process to come up with analytics, right? They do have a chatbot and they just need to provide a voiceover command over the chatbot. Say for example, show me the sales happened over the past 1 month. Automatically this bot will call the OData API or the REST API in the backend, and it will create the result and show it on the screen. Or you even have an option to download that result as a JPEG file and have a look at it. So there are different integration patterns that are coming as part of EA, and these are all native architectures. So we have to be very clear. We need to be in a position to achieve this natively, so that like customer prefers native features upfront rather than developing something custom, right? So that is something we have to be very clear. And also from the integration pattern perspective, we should be having a standard templatized process for all these integrations. So you do have a standard template which you have to take through the customer, and you need to change this template or customize the template based on the customer requirement. That is what customer expects during the enterprise architecture conversations. And now when I mention about all these integrations, EA native integration, I want to take you through one of the very, very critical topic, which is called Composable Enterprise. So what is Composable Enterprise? So it is basically a term coined by Gartner basically. So the composed enterprise is nothing but an organization that delivers business outcomes based on a business change. So it is basically a packaged business capabilities. For example, consider like you are trying to reach out to a SMB customer and you are positioning your end-to-end solution, and your SMB customer sees the value in the solution, but they are not ready to subscribe or pay for it because their return of investment is not very huge. Rather, there are cases where we identified customer doesn't want to subscribe to entire application, but then they want to subscribe only to particular business process on that particular application. So recently I worked with one of our SMB customers where we tried to position our travel solution for their use case. Okay, and I tried to position our end-to-end travel solution. So basically they do have their employees, contractors and all, and their employees made frequent travels. So basically they need to submit their travel expense, and then the travel expense has to be approved, and then the invoice has to be processed, payment has to be done. There are lots and lots of business process involved in this end-to-end solution. Now when I position the solution to our customer, since their revenue is not huge, what they asked is they don't want to subscribe to end-to-end solution. They want to subscribe to only particular business process, and they want to only use that particular process, and they only want to pay for that particular business process. So this is what the new age customer expects from us, and accordingly most of the multi-cloud providers, cloud providers basically, as well as the SaaS providers, they are currently working on launching the business process as a service. So here, for example, in a travel solution, we are breaking the solution into different business process, such as travel expense report as a service, whereas like customers can go and upload only the employees can go and upload only their travel receipts. Whereas there is another business process as a service which is doing this invoice generation, or else like approval of those scanned invoices. So there are different business processes which we are trying to host it in the cloud solution, in the cloud providers, so that customers can pick and choose what they use. So this is what Composable Enterprise looks like. So I was telling you the example of the business process which we are using, right? Lead to cash, design to operate, source to pay, and recruit to retire. Now, if you take a single process, lead to cash, this involves lots and lots of sub-process. So if you see, this lead to cash process is broken down into multiple processes, where the first process is contact to lead, where you are trying to contact different customers or different potential customers via various omni channels. So now this, you could see, this process is a kind of a marketing process where you try to contact customers, you are trying to generate the demand, generate the lead. And then the next process is lead to opportunity. Now you are converting this lead to opportunity, and the marketing person now giving this customer list to sales team. Now as a salesperson, I'm looking at an opportunity, speaking to customer, creating a quote, which is opportunity to quote. And the next step is quote to order. And once the order is delivered, the order to cash will happen. So this is the end-to-end process, right? Now, we do have a customer who just wants to subscribe only for the marketing process here, which means only contact to lead process, because they may be already using a different application for sales process from different vendors. So for example, maybe they would like to use contact to lead process from SAP, whereas they would like to use opportunity to quote or opportunity to order process from Salesforce. Now, as the enterprise architect, our goal here is to, customer would have already subscribed to this process. We need to find a way how this process is going to work seamlessly, how this is going to integrate each other, how the data mapping is going to happen. For example, the data model in contact to lead provided by SAP might be different from the data model used by Salesforce for opportunity to order. How are we going to map this data model? How is this data integration going to work? How is this entity relationship model work? So these are all the important cases that you as an enterprise architect has to be taken care of. Now here you could see in this particular page, these SaaS vendors, they start providing packaged business capabilities as a service instead of a complete application. These services will be deployed in multi-cloud, and maybe one service, for example, like a SAP service might be available in AWS, customer would have chosen that, and then a service from Salesforce would be available on Azure. Now as an enterprise architect, we need to architect a solution in the way such that the service that is available in AWS works seamlessly with the service available in Azure. Now, if you see, this process is going to be worked by the employees of our customers' employees, right? So ideally, as an employee of customer organization, if he wants to execute this process, he should be able to move the process, perform the process, touch basing different application, different providers in a seamless way. Which I mean, if a business process touches different applications, then it should not be like he has to enter the user information on each and every application. It should be a single sign-on. The authentication should be performed accordingly. Authorization should be provided accordingly. So you have to take care of all the security controls, scope controls, etc. Now here you could see, as customers, we should be in a position to consume different business process. And there are lots and lots of SaaS providers providing low-code, no-code platform. And with help of low-code, no-code platform, you can easily assemble these packaged capabilities and create an end-to-end solution, establishing an integration accordingly. And then with help of security, you can assign a particular business roles. So this is something very critical. And this composable enterprise is future of applications, basically. So this is a feature, and many more customers are adapting to this composable enterprise. So it is the duty of our enterprise architects to understand this concept, understand the integration pattern, and achieve it natively. And obviously, what is the role of enterprise architects basically in the composable enterprise? First is, once the business capabilities are available as a packaged capability, then obviously it will be available as a microservices, right? So we need to be well enough to understand how we are going to stitch the microservices together to make the business process work. And also the other critical piece is, we always speak from the business standpoint that breaking a monolith into microservices provides a lot of benefits. True, 100% true. But then from the technology standpoint, for us enterprise architects, we need to learn a lot about different patterns, different integration patterns, different architecture pattern, different extension technologies as well. So that is very, very, very critical. So yep, that is very, very, very critical here, because most of the customers, they want to consume the strategies, they want to consume the services. Now we as an enterprise architect, we have to take a call on how we are going to consume these services. Are we going to establish the security via service mesh? Are we going to use Istio? Or are we going to use Kubernetes? How are we going to orchestrate the different containers? How is the pattern looks like? How is the integration pattern looks like? How are we going to extend the application? Say, for example, the data model in Salesforce might be different from data model in SAP. So how we are going to map it? Are there any extensions required? How are we going to develop an extension, and how are we going to deploy it in containers? So there are different new technologies that are arriving in this cloud era, and it is the responsibility of our enterprise architects to be in sync, to understand more about all these different technologies, how these technologies work seamlessly. So this is critical for us. And now with all these package capabilities, we are moving from subscription-based model to consumption-based business models that will attract our SME customers also, so that your revenue will also get increased. Now, what is the role of technology leaders' role here in a composable enterprise? As a technology leader, you have to embrace the API economy. So basically, if you see, once you move the monolith to microservices, then ideally these microservices should be hosted in a multi-cloud environment. And obviously, when you go to microservices, you could see over a period of time, customers landscape, right? Customer digital transformation will be containing around thousands and thousands of microservices. Now we are moving away from monolith problem to microservice problems. So you would be seeing mesh of services, right? There are huge services, and obviously there will be a lot of issues that will come up, like the service discovery, traffic management, resiliency, observability, everything will become a challenge. So ideally we have to look at a concept called service mesh, how we are going to integrate service mesh, and how service mesh is going to help communicating the different microservices, how we are going to do load balancing, how we are going to achieve security in service mesh. Everything needs to be taken care and everything needs to be discussed. And also as an enterprise architect, we have to enable our internal teams also to make sure that they are aware of all these new technologies and when to position what technologies, for which customer cases these technologies will be helpful. That is something very critical, along with the integration strategy. And one final thing which I would like to take you through is the multi-cloud security. When you move from cloud providers differently, there are a lot of security concerns, right? So most of the customers whom with I am work on, they want to use the single Active Directory as their identity provider service. So basically they want to federate to the Active Directory service. This service might be in on-prem. So with help of our cloud IAM solution, cloud identity and authentication management, we need to find a way to do identity management, federating the identity, as well as role-based control, group-based control, multi-factor authentication, etc. So here, if you see, like in the composable enterprise, I mentioned about business users and roles, right? Obviously, this is very, very critical, because as part of this multi-services, right, there is a challenges with security, and you should adopt the principles of least privilege when you go with multi-cloud security concept. Multi-factor authentication should be there, identity federation should be there. So ideally you have to think about the single sign-on concept. Are you going to use SAML to bearer token? How are you going to use OAuth 2 here? Are you going to use OpenID Connect for social sign-on, or how is it that is going to come on. So these are all the different interactions that we as an enterprise architect need to adapt for. And also from a data perspective, definitely encrypted trust and encrypted transit is very, very critical. And customer would like to have their managed data store, and also data masking and anonymization is very, very, very critical when it comes to data. And because like the data will be there in different multi-cloud providers, right? And you should be getting a unified view of data, but you have to make sure the data that has been sitting on different multi-cloud providers are also anonymized, and also the encryption is maintained at the lowest level possible. And from infrastructure perspective, obviously you should be layering the multiple security. You should be having firewalls enabled. You should be having, wherever it is required, proxies and reverse proxies has to be done. And mostly we as an enterprise architect, what we try to do is we are not doing everything manually. Instead, we are using DevOps template. Basically, we are using tools like Terraform or something to establish all this as a template. And also from the automation perspective, obviously we are creating pipeline deployment. We are using CI/CD pipelines basically. So we are using Argo pipelines, we are using Jenkins to deploy the pipelines, which automatically establishes a security as well. So these are all very critical points when it comes to multi-cloud security. And one final slide, what is a do's and don'ts of multi-cloud? When you go to multi-cloud, there are a lot of advantages, like breaking your monoliths to microservices. That is very, very critical. And also you can consume the business process and adapt the next-gen business models. All the next-gen business model requires data, so these business models are hosted in cloud. So obviously that is very, very advantageous of using multi-cloud. And one primary advantage of multi-cloud is pay as you go, right? So for you to deploy your monolith in on-prem server, then you need a server to procure. There are a lot of capex expenses that are required. But then in cloud, everything is going to be provisioned by hyperscalers. So obviously it is OpEx instead of CapEx, right? Only operational expenses you have to pay instead of paying the capital expenditure. That is very critical. And also all the innovation services. So you can adapt the next-gen business model based on IoT or machine learning or robotic process automation or blockchain or even quantum computing. So there are lots and lots of innovation services that are hosted in cloud by different SaaS providers, PaaS providers, etc. So these are all the advantages of multi-cloud. But then what is that as an enterprise architect, we have to be very cautious about it. We need to make sure that we are avoiding vendor lock-in here. So basically our architecture, our integration patterns, our way of proposing solution to customers should be in such a way that we should avoid vendor lock-in. What I mean by vendor lock-in, say for example, position container-based application services instead of consuming PaaS, like say for example, App Engine on GCP, or else like in AWS we do have Elastic Beanstalk. Now when you position those PaaS, then ideally like all these PaaS are managed by AWS and Azure, and obviously there would be a vendor lock-in attached. So we always suggest to go for Kubernetes and container-based orchestration so that it doesn't have vendor lock-in. You can always migrate your containers. And also we try to avoid platform-specific solutions, obviously, for multiple reasons. So platform-specific solution in the sense, we do, for example, we do have MXNet on AWS. We are not using it. We are using a open source MXNet hosted in cloud containers, which is on Kubernetes. So that is how we are positioning to customer, so that customers can avoid the vendor lock-in. Maybe in future, if they want to consolidate, if they want to move to one particular cloud provider, you can automatically move these workloads as it is a container-based orchestration if you are using Kubernetes. Yep, so that's it from my side. Thank you so much. And now I would like to open this forum for questions.
Raj, fantastic review of integration of the development of cloud systems and multi-cloud systems. Very, very interesting perspectives. Thank you for that. Number of questions came up, related integration and related to multi-cloud systems. First of all, I have one here from William Fuller, and William Fuller is asking, using the levels of integration that you talked about, how many enterprises are really achieving full integration, that they are kind of really realizing the vision that you share here with us? And then his follow-up is that, how long do you think it takes for an enterprise typically to make that journey to where they are maybe disconnected to a integrated enterprise like that?
It is a fantastic question. Thank you, William. So first approach, what we try to do here is, first of all, we work with customer, we understand their current business architecture, coming up with their pain points, and then we are coming up with a transformation roadmap. Now in this roadmap, it will be like a continuous journey. It will be like a 3-year journey, where on the first year, we will work on moving the mission critical loads of customer to cloud. And then the following year, we will try to establish the integrations between all of those. And then at the end, we will come up with innovations and all. From my experience, most of the customers with whom I have worked on the digital transformation use cases, almost first 1 to 1.5 years, we will be working with them on transforming, on modernizing their current workloads to cloud and establishing the integration from on-prem to cloud. That is the first step. And then the next step is consuming all the other innovation services in multi-clouds by establishing the integrations. So this is actually a transformative process, which will be a year-by-year roadmap. So what we try to do is, as an enterprise architect, based on our level of expertise, we come up with a transformational roadmap for customers, explaining a 3-year roadmap. Now, customers and business leaders have to let us know how we can reprioritize it based on their use case, based on their return of investment. So that is something. So recently what happened is, for one of the customer, we have done this transformation roadmap. And from my perspective, I felt doing a new customer acquisition will be a critical business factor for this customer. That was my view. But then for the customer, they felt the customer retention is very critical than a new customer acquisition, because they are spending 5x amount of money for new customer acquisition. Whereas if they can retain the customer, they can cross-sell and upsell a new marketing products to their customer. So this is how the continuous conversation with C-suite executives happen. And finally, we are leveraging on the transformational roadmap, and then we are starting to implement that. So this is how the transformation works.
That's terrific. Thank you for that perspective. And Raj, what about when you are looking at this moving to like a cloud native journey, if you will? You work with a lot of different enterprise architects and software developers and a lot of different companies. What is there a kind of new skill sets that need to be developed by these enterprise architects and mindsets? I mean, what do you see as the necessary evolution for the professionals who are working in these areas to move to a cloud native environment?
Fantastic. So basically, like even myself also, I am a work in progress in all these cloud native technologies. So basically, if you see, like before 4 to 5 years, our goal was to move the workloads from on-prem to cloud and then establishing the next gen models. But then now cloud native comes into picture, and we do have different pipelines like CI/CD, etc. So from my perspective, from enterprise architect perspective, it is very critical to be 200% well versed with the security concept, because most of our customers, right, most of our, say for example, most of the B2C customers, they expect their customers to log in using their Facebook ID or Gmail ID to their websites. So they expect social login, social sign-on. So here what we see is, we need to find a way to establish the authorization to get integrated with Facebook. That is something like which is very critical. So I would see like the social sign-on is getting increased rapidly. And also when it comes to cloud native, there are lots and lots of skills. So recently, like we are working with a customer where they do have around like 127 services, microservices deployed, and these services have to work together. Now, though we have Kubernetes, it is still becoming a challenge on the orchestration. So now we are going with service mesh concept. This service mesh is new to us, but we are working on and we are implementing it. So I would say future is cloud native, current is cloud native. So we have to develop our skills on cloud native technologies, especially Kubernetes. And most of the customers, they are expecting CI/CD pipelines. So that is also very critical. So the DevOps, site reliability engineering, as well as the Kubernetes service mesh concepts are very critical. And I would say like before 3 to 4 years, customers were very interested to learn more about the machine learning integrations, etc. But I would say like now, even though the machine learning is still a buzzword now and most of the customers are adapting to machine learning workloads, but I would say like most of our enterprise architects are so comfortable in discussing about machine learning, because that has been there for 4 to 5 years at most, right? But then now the challenge, biggest challenge, what I say is how we are using service mesh on this concept, how we are going to do the multi-cloud transformation. And also very critical part here is positioning the multi-cloud service. As an enterprise architect, it is very, very, very critical for us to make sure that we are not positioning anything to customer that involves vendor lock-in, because most of the customers are telling you can come up with enterprise architects, but then I don't want to be locking with a particular vendor. In future, if I want to move the workload, I have to be seamlessly moving out. So that is the case that customers are expecting a lot. And also from the integration perspective, most of the customers are moving from point-to-point integration to event-based integration. So basically what happens is, based on the particular event, they are expecting multiple processes to be triggered. So that is something I do see a lot of requests coming from customer. So these are all the areas I would request our enterprise architects to concentrate on for at least for next 2 years. And I hope, like as always know, right, the technology is far evolving, and obviously we know like there will be a lot of new technologies that is going to come up in next 2 years. And we do have already got a customer request on how we can leverage quantum computing service for their use case. It is for one of the customer who wants to optimize their carrier optimization problem basically. So now we are working on that also. So there are lots and lots of technologies that are evolving. So our enterprise architect have to keep an eye on all the evolving technologies to be sure that we are stay on top of it.
Raj, fantastic. I mean, what a masterclass on the technology innovations, on the enterprise architecture and the multi-cloud environment. You know, lots of great questions and commentary here. I hope this is one of many more sessions to come. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your wisdom and expertise with our global audience today.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It is my privilege, Jose. Thank you. And yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Rajprasath Subramanian, who is the innovation technology leader at SAP India, sharing his expertise and wisdom with our global audience today. So very grateful for that. We are going to be wrapping up the session, and the next 2 sessions, we're going to be bringing items that are critically important to enterprise architectural success, but often overlooked. And they have nothing to do with technology. I'll give you that as a hint. We're going to be talking next with Anu Sinhan, who is a leader on business transformation. She's going to be talking about the power of storytelling and how do we communicate effectively and how we influence effectively through the power of our storytelling in our culture, business, and digital transformations. And then I'll wrap up the day and the conference with a review of great enduring organizations and how those successful organizations in their transformation journey, what are the key components for their success. And this is not based on what I think, it is based on the empirical evidence on the results they get and the characteristics they exhibit in pursuing those results, not over a short period of time, but over a much longer horizon. So the next 2 sessions will move from technology to storytelling and communication, and then culture as your ultimate competitive advantage. So we'll take a break now. I'll see you back soon at the top of the hour with Anu Sinhan.